Hello, everyone. I am here remotely at my house, and we're here tonight with Richard, James, Virginia, Matt, and my son Tom on drums. So, oh, did I say James? Yes, I said James. Anyway, I'm still reading this. I'm still reading this book, the Run to the Mountain. Oh, there we go. Run. Ah, I can't figure this out. Run to the Mountain. Anyway, it is the Journals of Thomas Merton. And I'm going to read a passage. And I found this passage fascinating. This was before the United States was in World War II. And he had gone to see a movie about Germany invading Poland. And this was how he described it's a little bit long, but I want to read it anyway. It's how he described the movie about this war. It said it showed no dead men, nobody getting killed, nobody even getting roughed up. A couple of Poles and great crowds of prisoners appeared with bandages on. They showed one dead horse with a great swollen belly. Otherwise, no death. On the other hand, there were hundreds of feet, it seemed, of destroyed material and houses. All the destruction was completely dehumanized. You saw a lot of razed buildings, blasted bridges, wrecked trains, piles of captured guns, and other nondescript stuff. It was like watching hours of filming of a great garbage dump, and the whole thing soon got very nauseating and stupid. After that, when they did show men, even the men looked dehumanized and appeared to be nothing but more equipment. The Germans looked like good equipment. The Poles looked like cheap equipment, slightly spoiled. Otherwise, they were the same. It almost seemed to be the point of the picture that these men had ceased to be people and were nothing but very good equipment, sound and reliable and tireless German equipment manufactured by the Fuhrer. But there was one shot of some Germans riding by on caissons, dead tired, and some of them slumbering. Suddenly, one man got in the eye of the camera and gave back the straightest and fiercest and most resentful look I ever saw. Great rings surrounded his eyes, which were full of exhaustion, pain, and protest. And he kept staring, turning his head and fixing his eyes on the camera as he went by, demanding to be seen as a person and not as the rest of the cattle. The censors should have cut him out because he succeeded. You began to realize how tired and disgusted all of those soldiers must have been. It added great weight to the effect of all the garbage that had gone before. What a thing to be proud of, to have turned one whole country into a junk heap. Okay, I just like that description of that. I don't know what the film was. He never said what the name of the film was. It sounds like it was had smacked of German propaganda, but
Is this a film before World
it's
War
it
II?
it's no, it's after the Germans invaded Poland, but before the United States
I see.
was was involved. So he was Thomas Merton was in the United States at the time.
Hmm.
So he wasn't in because he's British and he was not in Europe. But he talks a lot about the photos he sees, especially, and he's very touched by the things of England when he sees the streets of England bombed because he's been to those places, so he can identify, and it has more of an effect on him than to see Paris or Poland. Uh, so he
Can I ask you a
it
question?
yeah.
Which Thomas Merton are you talking about? Because the Thomas Merton I know was an American monk and priest and lived in Kentucky his whole life.
No, he became a monk. It's a guy. It's the guy who became a monk, but
Yeah, you're both
he
talking about the same people.
Okay, we're talking about.
he didn't go into the monastery immediately. after he had this vision. He didn't go in immediately. He stayed out, and he was waiting to be. I don't know if he had to wait a certain amount of time before they accepted him, but this is before he was accepted. Excuse me. This is from 1939 to 1941, and apparently he must. I don't know if there's a section of this book where he actually is in the monastery, but so far he's still living in the world at large.
Well, yeah. He was born in France,
Hmm.
and he died in Thailand at the age of 53.
Well, he's all he's talked about so far was that he maybe he was born in France, but he lived in England. I guess maybe he went to school in England, but he
Yeah,
was very
that's
very
probably what happened.
moved. He was very moved by the pictures of the British, by London bombed. The rest of the stuff didn't bother him. France and all that stuff. Anyway, it's I'm still enjoying this book. It's hit and miss though, and because it's a journal. Some days he's more he's waxing more poetic than others. Some days he just talks about lists of things. Things that he likes. But it's I enjoy reading people's journals. I don't know that and their personal letters. I feel like a voyeur, I guess.
Virginia, in that thing you were reading, did it tell how Thomas Merton died?
Oh, well, let me check. He died at 53,
Yeah.
so he was basically middle age.
His death is a cautionary tale. Don't take a bath in the same room with an electric heater.
Oh, you're
Really?
kidding me.
He
He
did.
died
Weird
like
that
that?
He died that
he,
way.
he,
Wow, what a
that's
weird
Virginia.
way to go.
Yeah.
He died at a
Holy,
Red Cross retreat
Hmm.
in Thailand,
Hmm.
attending a monastic conference.
Hmm.
And he
you
was
wanted to
found.
make sure.
This is what
Yeah.
it says. It says after giving a talk at the morning session, he was found dead later in the afternoon in the room of his cottage, wearing only shorts, laying on his back, with the short-circuited Hitachi floor fan lying across his body.
Hmm.
Wow,
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah,
figure.
he, he's kind of a prig. I like certain things he says. He's poetic, and he's kind of he looks he looks down on um people who aren't very bright, and I don't know. I don't know.
Really, really, really.
I like reading about him. But I mean, I like this thing, but I don't know if I would have enjoyed hanging out with him. I don't think so. He's not coming to my fantasy dinner party.
Hmm.
He's
He's not okay. All right.
Will
no,
will
he's
you
not invited.
will you avoid him in the next life?
Well, no, I might want to talk to him,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't want to hang out with him. I mean, I don't want him latching on,
Hmm.
As
because
the English would say, he doesn't suffer fools kindly.
Hmm.
so anyway, that is my beginning of the show, and I am ready for Richard to. We haven't had a show in a few weeks, so
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about.
I'm sure there is. There's so much has happened. Oh my God, so much has happened in the last few weeks. It's almost incredible.
Two people have already contacted me about the Olympic boxing match that is sweeping around the internet. Do you know about this?
I do not.
I do
I have
not.
not.
Okay. This is an example of misinformation on the internet.
Okay.
It goes like this. There's about to be an Olympic boxing match in the women's category. So the match starts. After 46 seconds, one of the boxers bends her knee to the mat, which is a sign I give up. And everybody's surprised, like, only 46 seconds, you're bending your knee? What's going on? And she says, I have never been hit that hard by another woman in all my years in boxing. So this is where the misinformation kicks in. People look at the testing that was done on the other boxer prior to the match, and they notice that one of the tests that was submitted on behalf of the boxer had to do with how much testosterone was in her body.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at the level of a man.
Mm.
Well, the Olympic Committee held its ground and said, there's no hanky-panky going on here. These were two women boxing. And what they should have said is, the test that people think is proof that the other woman is a male was done by a Russian troll factory. It's not done by a reputable laboratory.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens then is Fox News and the right-wing media portrays this as a man beating up a woman because the Olympics are trying to be politically correct.
Can I fine-tune this just slightly?
You could fine-tune it, sure.
The issue is that the agency with the disputed test was stripped of their governing body authority for feeding athletes to the Olympics from that country. And they had eliminated this boxer and another from contention, saying that their testing said that their gender markers were in dispute. On further review, it is claimed that the two eliminated boxers are biologically, genetically intersexed. The boxer in question in this one particular match does in fact have, we'll just say, lady parts. So she is properly a woman from birth, and there's no transition involved. It's just unfortunate that she's not very well endowed up top side. So people believe that this is one of those people who decided because they could not compete as a male, that they would compete as a woman, because visually you could sell that idea to someone just looking at her.
Well, there's a lot of athletic women are muscular in their chest area, which kind of diminishes to some degree the look of breasts. Don't you agree with that?
Certainly.
Like, especially swimmers.
Yeah, she just looked like she never had breasts, which is unfortunate for this comparison. So,
well, there are a lot of people. I shouldn't say a lot. There are more people than you would imagine who are actually born intersex. You know,
agree.
they're and at the time of birth, they are sexed. The parents and the doctors will make the decision on what sex they are, and so it depends on how, you know, they'll say what external organs do they have that match which sex, and they'll make these indiscriminate choices, where I think it's becoming more normal now to wait until the child grows up to see what gender, but it's confusing. You know, it's very confusing. So what do you think about this, James? Do you think that this woman should have been disqualified?
No, I don't. However, the thing that causes the dispute is that when testing someone like this, you can have someone come up as XXY or XYY, and in this case, it would lead to people having some controversy over whether or not, say, an XXY person should be considered a woman for the purposes of competition.
Mhm. Okay. So, Richard, what was your point in this?
The people who were writing to me saying this is an example of how sick the liberal mindset is, that they would allow this match to go on.
Who do you correspond with that thinks like that?
The worst one is a fellow who lives in Georgia, and he almost verbatim repeats everything that he hears on Breitbart and Fox News.
Mhm.
And no matter how I explain to him, it's horrible having a conversation with you because you think you know everything. and no matter and like if I give him a counter argument, he'll say, I won't waste my time.
I've had that conversation with you a few times, Richard.
He said, I won't waste my time trying to disprove you. And then I write back, I said, well, what's the point on even writing to me? Like if I say anything in response, you don't want to waste your time confronting me. So he was one, and Paul Drajan was the other.
Well,
Oh yeah, Paul sent me something recently.
Paul has just joined us.
Oh, good.
Oh, Paul, good.
Why-
Testing 1, 2.
Yeah,
Hi.
Paul, what are we looking at here?
My computer.
Oh,
Where are you, Paul?
yeah, we'll get to
I'm at
see.
home.
We'll get to see him shortly. Or I
Okay.
should say, his computer. We'll get to see.
Well, you know what? You know what concerns me the most is that Fox News
Yeah.
said in a court of law in this country that they are not a news station; that they are for only entertainment purposes only.
Yes.
I mean, so,
Yes.
so
Well-
why
well,
is
this will-
anybody paying
but-
any
all
attention
right.
to them? I mean, really.
All right. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. All of the stuff that happens, mostly all of the stuff that happens on those shows, is commentary. They will give you a blurb of news, and then they will have a panel that discusses it. Either from the liberal angle, if it's CNN or MSNBC, or they will discuss it from the conservative angle if it's Fox. None of that stuff is news. It's commentary, and it's addictive. I mean, I was never a news person until the Donald Trump situation, and then I became. I wouldn't say I'm a news junkie, but I'm always looking for scraps of hope, and it's frustrating.
I think the bigger problem with this particular news story is that so many people are going off the knee-jerk reaction to the early reports, which were inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody said biological male beating up a genetic woman and sanctioned by the Olympic Committee. There was even a political cartoon that called it Olympic Domestic Violence Medal. And this is just not what actually happened. And you would have to have spent time digging for the truth to find out what it was, because the story that was out there, as they say, the lie travels the earth 3 times before the truth gets its pants on. And you would have had
because it's sensational. That whole sensational thing, James, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it was sensational, but I also think it kind of fit the narrative, right? So I think all it took was, transgender athletes, and then it just people's knee-jerk kind of reaction to that went over to, the talking points of blown up into a bigger thing. But I do think it was an interesting thing with the Twitter and just seeing, like you're saying, the quote of the falsehood goes around 3 times faster. Yeah. 'cause
You guys live yet or no?
Yeah, we're on.
We're waiting to see you.
We're
Paul.
live. We're waiting for you to see.
It-
We've already we have 39 minutes and 44 seconds left.
So what? You actually started on time then?
Well,
No.
no.
It could happen.
We would never do
Yeah,
that.
because I generally don't come on because I know you're always like an hour late. So it's why I didn't show up earlier.
Well, you know what? I'm not there because my car is broken down,
Oh,
and there's something called a serpentine belt.
Oh my
I'm
lord!
hoping
Yeah,
that's all it is.
that's simple.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's all it is. But I got a ride in a tow truck a couple
Wonderful.
days ago. Or it was yesterday. Oh my God, it was yesterday. No wonders I'm so like whacked out today. I got a ride in a tow truck, and it was fun.
So how many thousands of miles are you over on your serpentine belt change?
I have 250,000 miles on my car,
Oh, good God! And that's the
And,
original serp belt.
and that's my first time. I've never heard of that before, so it must be the first time they're changing it.
Oh my lord! That was supposed to have been changed about 150,000 miles ago.
Well, maybe they did, and they just never mentioned it to me because it wasn't.
I don't
in-
change my belts until they break.
Oh, good grief!
Well, it
hopefully
was-
it's
it was-
not when you're traveling across country.
Yeah,
Oh,
I know.
I
and
mean,
that's-
No, I know.
Paul just got back from like a 12-hour car ride.
Yep.
Where'd
Drove
you go,
across the
Paul?
island.
How
What's that?
How fatigued were you after 12 hours driving?
Actually, not bad at all.
Where did you go that took you 12 hours?
The other side of the island. Went to St. Anthony.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was that big.
So that picture that's up there now, it's called the Arches,
Oh, that's beautiful.
and
Holy
that's
cow.
it's at the Arches Provincial Park. So it's about halfway between St. John's and St. Anthony. So Gross Morn. It's right around Gross Morn.
If a person was standing under the arch, how little would they be?
They would probably look like that little rock that's down there in the middle.
Oh,
Okay.
I see the rock. Yeah. On the left-hand side, correct?
Yep.
Wow, that's really pretty amazing.
Well, you can't actually see the whole picture in this. I mean, I see the whole picture on my end, but you ain't see it because it doesn't have it on wide screen. So
Is this
That's a-
is this something that nature made without any human intervention?
yes,
I love the contrast between the blue of the water and the blue of the sky. Very pretty.
yeah. It's too bad. There's another cave. There's three of them, but you can't. Well, you can see them, but you can't see the ends because of the way the picture's cropped. I mean, I see it at my end, but you're probably not seeing it on your end.
Yeah, I don't know what you can see and I can see. I can't tell the difference, obviously.
Right. Yeah. So that was part of the one of the places we stopped. But we stopped. There was a Viking village we went to, and
Oh, cool.
so it was a reenactment that they do every day, and that people are dressed like the Vikings were back, a couple hundred years ago, whatever, and they or maybe more than that. I don't even know when Viking
Every
era
day?
is.
They do it every day?
Sure, if there's
Well,
tourism
yeah,
involved.
it's every
Wow.
day, and it's like it's a village, and they have, and you walk through, and then you have like the people that gather that make clothes. So there's a building for making clothes. There's a building for a blacksmith to make tools and nails and whatever else they need. And then there's a food bunker, and then a place they eat and a place they sleep, and it's all obviously it's not original because stuff would have never lasted that long, but it's been
Yeah,
put together,
Yeah,
and
it's
there's a lot of artifacts
reconstructed.
there too.
yeah.
Yeah, Paula takes her granddaughters to this place where everybody pretends that they're in the, is it the 1800s, Paula?
Well,
Oh, medieval
actually,
times.
No.
no, it's called Mumford, and it's the Genesee Village Museum, and it's really cool. But it's not any particular period. What they do is they take buildings from all over Western New York, and they place them in specific places. Like they've got one area that's more of a it like pioneer kind of space with log cabins and a barn and blacksmith shop, and then there's another area that's more like the 19th century
And and,
with
and there's actors portraying these
yeah,
people.
people, right.
Yeah.
People are they don't live in the spaces, but they do stuff. Like there's a woman in this there's a kitchen in the one house from the 19th century with a fireplace and a pot that they hang in and a bread oven. You know, they've got all the accoutrements of the time. And she
Right.
actually cooks things, and they actually have a cookbook with some of these recipes in it. But you
Oh,
know, some of the things like hot ash, I don't know where I'd find that.
right.
You know,
James, where do you get potash?
Well, you have to burn some things.
Yeah, it's
well, I
potash,
know, but
spoil wood.
I can't see putting potash in it. Like the ingredients are all from that era. I've got a cookbook, an American Heritage cookbook that also has historic
Native
recipes.
Americans sprinkle ash in the food that they prepare. If
Yeah.
you get a Native American taco, they literally reach into a container of ashes and sprinkle it on like salt.
Yeah. Those that
It is
bread.
minerals, after all.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
sometimes some things happen when things get burned. Do you know what happens when you burn limestone?
Not particularly.
Does anybody know what happens when you burn limestone? How about you,
No.
Matt? Well,
You release hydrogen into the air.
you live in an area where there's a lot of limestone, so there's a lot of limestone rocks. So
Yeah.
you usually put rocks around a fire. Okay. So then you start your bonfire at night, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you're done, you pour water on it. When you wake up the next morning, do you know what you find?
No rocks.
Concrete. Which is why the Roman Empire had so much concrete, because there's so
Wow.
much limestone in Italy.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And then they
Well,
started.
there's more to it than just that. I mean,
Well,
you got to mix other stuff.
No, you
know.
don't. Well, that's your basic form of concrete, and then what happens is they started adding sand to it. They
Yeah,
started
to get it
adding,
stronger.
they kept improving it,
Right.
and then somebody had the brilliant idea: what if we soaked wood in this stuff, and then it would let it harden around the wood,
Like petrify it or something.
and that's how you get the aqueducts. Like,
Ah.
and believe it or not, they're still standing.
There.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, you know, some of that stuff is. I mean, the pyramids are still standing. You know, some of these things are amazing.
Well, they didn't have reoccurring contracts every year to try to apply for. So
No, they don't even really know who built they don't know if they were slaves or they were just people that, you know, like they had to be conscripted. Like every couple years, they would have. It would be like a service, like when you're drafted into the military, only for building. So they don't really know. There's no actual records of who built pyramids. It's kind of weird.
well, the point is they had no motivation to do it in such a way where it didn't last.
Yeah.
I heard an interesting suggestion by philosopher Martha Nussbaum yesterday. She said it would be a good idea, considering how estranged people are in the current era of technology.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a good idea if we brought back the draft, but with an asterisk. You wouldn't be drafted into the military. You would be drafted into a civil service type of occupation, like going around the country planting trees or going to nursing homes and taking care of people, you know, or taking food to poor areas of the country, and like the Peace Corps almost. But what do you think of that idea?
I love it.
It would bring
I think
people
it's
out of their
great.
shells, and at
I
the
think
same, yeah, and it would help the environment.
I think that there should be, I mean, they have like you said, the Peace Corps, but there's also, James, do you know what it is that they have, you
The
work,
AmeriCorps?
AmeriCorps, thank you, I couldn't think of it. AmeriCorps, and I know a girl who was in AmeriCorps, and she worked, I don't know exactly what she was doing, I think she was building things with a group. But I think it would be a great idea if we had a draft like that where people, because they could get to see the parts of the country and things that they would never come in contact with. You know, we are isolated, but we're not only isolated because of technology, but we're isolated within I mean, we don't. It would be lovely if somebody could go to a place like Appalachia and see how people live,
Hmm.
or you know, someplace that where or on a reservation and work with Native Americans. I mean, how amazing would that be? And
Hmm.
look at all that stuff that they built during the Depression. All those stone benches and everything that are in the parks.
Hmm.
All that stuff is still there.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It was
well, stuff is preserved.
yeah, I love the idea. It would connect us more, Richard. I think that's what you know, one of the points you were saying. I think it would connect people more.
Yeah.
I have to disagree
We,
with the compulsory nature of a draft. However, we do still have avenues to reach that goal, both the AmeriCorps style situation, and we already have the idea of welfare to work programs, so I wouldn't have a problem with that kind of situation. But a straight out draft that compels people to do such.
Well, maybe not a draft, but maybe encouraging high school students, you know, to take a year before college to do something like this, or college students to take, like, after their second year, maybe take a year to engage with the community,
AmeriCorps
you
is
know.
designed to give college students credits towards erasing their school debt with their
Mhm.
service time.
Hmm.
Yeah, right. By us
Right,
paying for it. Yeah.
they also have, you know, the people that are in AmeriCorps aren't necessarily college students, though. They have people from all over you know, all the socioeconomic
Just making the
background.
point that student loan debt can be worked off in the AmeriCorps.
Right, that's true. I know that there are programs, for if you work in social services, or if you work in the nonprofit sector, you can get your student loan erased. But I know a lot of people who fit all the qualifications and had a really hard time applying for that relief. So I don't know that.
And one of my pet
uh,
peeves about the student college expense situation is something that the average person doesn't understand, which is that a lot of this is imaginary money in the first place, and the problem is the government because they have created a situation where the colleges are forced to raise tuition prices because the government says you cannot have a situation where a person can technically go to school, quote, for free. So, whatever the grant money plus loans situation, well, whatever the grant money situation is, you cannot sell your college degree for the amount of money that a person can get in grants. and there's a percentage that it
Well,
has to be.
I mean, that's something new. I don't know, but
No, this is something that goes way back, and the point is
I got
this:
my
whatever
college
the grant
education
situation
paid for
is
by
that you can get
grants.
this amount of money to go to college,
Yeah.
there's a percentage that the tuition has to be higher, and
Yes,
because
but
of that,
when
you
I went
have
to
buy
college, my
loans,
grants,
and
my
because
grants
of
covered
that,
everything.
the amount of money that the
Yeah.
tuition costs rises more and more, because however much they increase the grant money, there is a increase in the tuition because it has to keep up with this rule.
Yeah, but
So when it comes
but
to saying we have this money that the people owe and we're going to forgive the debt, this is imaginary money in the first place, because the campus is not raising the tuition because they want to build another building. The campus has to raise the tuition because if they don't, they lose their certification.
But James, my tuition was paid for completely by grants.
Which
I
is now
didn't
unlawful.
have to pay. I
Which
did
is
not
now
have to pay 1
something
cent.
but that can't happen anymore. This is my point.
I do
Okay.
think it's interesting. I think the actual business models of higher education are like slowly dying, right? So you're demographic wise, there's less and less young people because the actual people are having less kids. There's less young people, but at the same time, you see things like the internet. Like when you think of a university, right? They have all these admins, professors, buildings, everything that they got to maintain. Versus, I think you're almost seeing higher education go the way of Blockbuster, where you're seeing like the internet, right? Now anybody with a microphone that has expertise can just record themselves, put it online, and share information. So I think you're seeing even more young people saying, wait, why would I go to college? I just want to go to college to party, but why would I go there, spend $100,000 to get a liberal arts degree from a professor who's, been in an ivory tower their whole life when I could just, go on YouTube and learn, for
Yeah,
example,
be a YouTuber or a TikToker. That's the thing. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what's wrong.
YouTuber.
Yeah,
They're not people online. I mean, obviously there's a problem. There's anybody with the microphone, but also, people that are really excellent at their craft that, don't have a PhD or don't have the proper credentials because they don't have a PhD can go online and even, share information that you can't learn in college. So I think it is interesting that we're kind of hitting this inflection point. You see more and more universities, I think Madai, even locally Canisius, they're like literally collapsing in front of our eyes because there's not even the demographic base. I mean, millennials were the largest generation. There's just less and less people to, keep up with the rising costs of tuition. So it's kind of interesting to see that.
Speaking of money,
I'm not that worried. I'm sorry, Paul. You saying something?
I was just saying, speaking of money or the next generations, I had a conversation earlier today with somebody about they were concerned about being microchips and put into them, and they said they would sooner die than have a microchip put in them. And I told them, I says, I don't know how old he was, but I says, so when charge cards came out, and that was like 1950 was like the first charge card, and it was like a diner's card, and it was for people that forgot their wallet, and they would present this diner card, and they would basically get credit to that, and then they would send them a bill saying, okay, this is what you owe our restaurant. So as growing up as a kid, charge cards were not very prevalent. They weren't, people had them, but nobody used them, right? So and then now at today's date, and I remember a teacher telling me that when I was in high school in history, he goes, one day it's going to be all plastic. There won't be no cash. There won't be no money. It'll just be all digital. And he talked about this. So the reality of it is, here it is. So the what people use mostly are charge cards, debit cards, digital currency, email transfers. They don't carry cash with them so much anymore. So eventually that's going to turn into a cashless society, and it's heading there. I see that coming. And then what comes next is getting chipped. If you don't have this chip, there won't be money anymore. You'll have units or credits. And you can buy something for so many credits or so many units or whatever it might be. And then if you don't have this chip, you will not be able to survive in this world, because without it,
so
you will not
where
be
is
able
this, Paul? What are you referencing when you're talking about us being chipped for commerce.
Well, like a microchip.
Yeah,
stuck
no,
in
I
your-
know, but I'm saying has anybody else heard of this thing that
Yes.
Well, they're already doing it now.
Yes. In other words, you know our friend Mick?
yeah,
He lives not too far away from a Whole Foods.
yeah,
And he went in there and there was, the self checkout.
yeah.
There's a self checkout if you have a chip under your skin. You go to that checkout and that's how you pay for your food.
What?
And he was like, wait
So-
a minute, the future is here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So what's going to happen
Wow.
is
I guess I'm behind the times here.
so what's going to happen is that's what it will be. You'll have credits and you'll have whatever they're going to give you. There won't be no money. There won't be cash. And if you're not chipped, you will not be able to buy products. You won't be able to sell products. You won't be able to exist. You'll be forced to chip. And then the government will obviously keep your whereabouts, where you are, your spending habits, and so on and so on and so on. And that's where it's headed. As all I'm saying is, back 50 years ago or 60 years ago when I was in high school, I was told this, and now it's coming to light. So it's just progressively, it's going to happen. It's just the way it is. It's basically a cashless society now. I mean, I rarely carry cash with me. It's always, card or debit card.
The
I think your social security.
What's that?
Go on.
I was just saying, your social security number has already kind of evolved into like a chip of it. It was initially intended to just be like your ID in the social security
ID,
system.
right,
Now it's evolved into this unique identifier everywhere you go, where you're required to
Absolutely,
have it.
right.
We definitely are living in type of society. Like anything, every information, every click you make, can be tied back to your address, to everything. So I think we are kind of heading there, unfortunately. Right. And
Yeah, we've all become a commodity, where our email addresses are sold to other.
Well, that's where artificial intelligence is going to come in. It's already here, obviously, and they're already, making great strides in animations and producing AI, and I've used it in photographs to help with certain things, and so it's already there. It's just got to be processed in a way where people can accept it, and it's going to get to that point where you watch these movies that talk about the robots taking over. I don't put it past it. I don't put it past that happening.
Oh no, we're heading towards something interesting and new, and that's a fact. We're going to see it. I mean, I didn't think I would.
We
live
won't
to
see it, but our next generations will.
No, I think we will live to see it, Paul, unless
I don't think
we,
so. No.
drop off very soon.
Well, do you plan on living for more than another 20 years?
20 years? Yeah. Don't you?
No, I'll be 85 years old. I'm not gonna. I don't plan on living much past that.
Oh yeah, I'll be here in 20 years. I don't have any doubts about that, unless I'm hit by a truck or something. I'm pretty sure I'll be here in 20 years.
Well,
But,
if you have a long life in your family, that people live long, then sure. But
well, no, my father died young, but my mom was 89, so
89.
And I think, and I also think I have better health habits than my mother. So who knows? But I want to get back just really quickly, and we can just wrap that up. One of the other problems with the college tuition and things like that. I worked at a university in Florida. I was an admissions counselor for the graduate school, and there are so many unaccredited colleges doing business and not really explaining that they are unaccredited. People get an education, they pay a fuckload of money, and they can't go to graduate school because they went to an unaccredited college. And this is also true with high schools. A lot of these high schools that are religion affiliated are not accredited. So when these kids go from high school and they want to get into college, they have to get their GED.
Well, what makes it credited?
accredited is because you're teaching a curriculum that is in keeping with the standards
Okay.
of your state. So if you are not teaching science, for instance, if you have a Christian a Christian high school that's not teaching evolution, you're not accredited.
Right.
And so when you go to college, you got to get your GED first, otherwise you're not going anywhere. So the problem being, a lot of people, because they're not savvy, they don't have the information, they're going to these colleges, getting degrees, these undergraduate degrees that are not, they are worthless. They're worthless. And so, like that, for instance, Trump University, you can't go to a higher level of education if you go to Trump University. It's not a university. I don't even know how they can call it that. There are parts of Phoenix that are not accredited, and
You can go to my university if you want.
you can go to what?
My university if you want.
Your
University?
Yeah, Dr. D of Photography School of Photography.
That's good. That's good. I would go there. I love your photography. I think you're a great photographer.
It's not credited
But,
though, but that's okay.
So now part of that huge debt that we're talking about is people who have educations that aren't worth anything because they're not
Right.
accredited. And so those schools need to be shut down. Or they need to have some kind of better explanation to the students who are enrolling in them that they cannot go any. There's certificate programs basically, even though they call them bachelor degrees.
My son, I was talking to him today, and we're talking about education, and for him to say to me, the kids of this generation are so stupid. For him to say that is like, well, there's got to be there, and there is truth to that, because they're just have no common sense. They have no logic. They sit in front of a computer. They TikTok. They do this. They do that. They're on their iPhone, and they don't go out and experience life like it. Like he's just so baffled that people that are in their 20s don't know how to change a tire on their car because they're not being taught any of this stuff. And he's just amazed with it. And here he's only. He's 36 years old. And for him to say that to me, it just blew my mind. I'm like, oh, kids are stupid.
And it depends on the kid, I guess. But I know that
the majority.
I didn't have what you might call a lot of common sense when I was 20 either. I had to develop that, and I don't think, and biologically, your brain isn't completely, your cortex isn't completely formed until you're almost 30 years old.
No, but I mean, you walk up to a stove, you see a pot on there, and you see it boiling, you know not to touch it because you know it's hot. Because your parents taught you it's hot. But if they didn't teach you that, you would touch it.
Possibly. Yeah, but
there's no possibility behind it. If you're not taught what's right and wrong, how would you know?
Okay. You're saying that this is you're not talking about somebody raised by wolves. They're out.
No, but I'm saying if you're not brought up in a society that makes sense, like just say if the kid was brought up in a household where the parents are just totally idiots. They're druggies, they're alcoholics, they're this or that. So more than likely, that kid is going to grow up, and he's going to be the product of that environment.
Well,
so if he's not taught, if the parents are doing nothing but watching TV and playing on a computer, and the kid, that's what they're going to know. They're not going to know, hey, let's go outside and throw a ball, or let's go for a walk.
Well,
or let's go
I have grandkids, and my grandkids are on their devices more than I think they should be. But I know even with the younger one, the 9-year-old, she's watching a lot of things that have to do with animal welfare. And she's learning a lot about.
Oh yeah, my grandson is too. He watches nothing but educational stuff. He won't even watch a movie.
Yeah, so I mean, it depends. If you're just playing games, or you're just looking at TikTok stuff that, like, but there's a lot of good stuff online as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, Richard.
Interesting article in the Atlantic magazine. Can I tell you
Okay.
about it?
No.
You familiar with the concept block
Hey,
club?
she said no. You're rape information in her right now.
Block Club?
Yeah.
Uh, is nothing to do with neighborhoods, is it?
Yes, it has to do with the
oh.
people on your street.
Okay.
They
Yeah, I know
form
about
They
that.
form a group, and they can ask the city or the town or the county, hey, on this day we'd like to maybe have a street party. Bring
Oh,
a
yeah,
band.
block party.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an example of what a block club can do. So in this city, in this particular neighborhood, one of the block clubs got together and said, we're always taking our kids on a 20-minute trip to the playground. I have a suggestion. Why don't we shut down our street between noon and 7 p.m. and let all our kids play in the street? And the people at the block club said,
Perfect.
all right, let's try it. What do you think happened?
Nobody showed up.
Kids, shut up.
They all came out with their devices.
No, I wouldn't doubt that.
Okay, well, here's what they wrote in the Atlantic article. The results were breathtaking. Dozens of kids showed up and had no problem finding things to do, even though there was no playground, no swings, no nothing. One little girl cycled up and down the street 3,000 times. She was totally blissed out. Suddenly, the modern approach to children's play, in which the parents have to keep taking their kids to the playground or to specified activities, it seemed needless and insufficient. Kids don't need special equipment or lessons. They just need to be less reliant on adult. The experiment also provided some unexpected results. As children poured into the streets, some ran into classmates and said, I didn't realize you lived next door to me.
Oh my God.
Soon it became clear to everyone present that that there were more kids living on their street than anyone had imagined. Furthermore, adults started to get to know one another in the process of coming outside and seeing what the kids were doing.
There you go.
What's the moral of the story?
Well,
Get rid of cars.
Socialize. You have to socialize.
yeah, socialize. I think that's a great idea. I mean, there's a lot of kids in my street, and they play on the street even though cars come down. But I'm never angry with those kids on the street. I always wave to them and smile because I'm just glad to see they're outside doing something. It makes me happy to see that. So, okay, so we've got like 7 minutes left. Virginia, are you working on something, or are you writing something, or reading something that you want to talk about?
Well, I'll be going to Savannah, Georgia in the spring on a project that I don't care to discuss right now.
I love Savannah, Georgia. Have you been there before?
I was there for an afternoon this May.
Oh, it's so lovely. Oh, you're gonna love spending time there.
Yeah,
one of my favorite places in the whole world.
I'm gonna go for I'm gonna go for about a week, and I'm gonna start my project. And I think it'll be a perfect place for it. It has to do with Savannah. That's all I'm willing to talk about.
It has to do with what?
Savannah.
Oh, okay.
That's
You
part
know
of
what?
the
I have a
equation.
Actually, you couldn't have told me at a better time, because I have a book about Savannah that I was going to get rid of, and I'll save it for you.
Oh, would you? Thank you.
Yeah. I would love to pass that on to you, because I was going through some things, and it was something I decided not to keep.
James, have you been to Savannah?
But
have.
I want you to know that a book has been recommended to me. And it's called Reinventing Your Life Traps, and it's by a Janet Klasko and Dr. Jeffrey Young, and it's been recommended.
I've heard the name of that book, but I haven't read it.
I've never heard of it before. It was recommended to me the other day.
That sounds like a good
that's what I'll
recommendation.
be ordering. I'll be ordering that uh, to delve into that. That'll be my
I'm
next
gonna
book.
I'm gonna make sure I go through my books and I think there's a couple Savannah ones, and I'll contact you when I find them. Okay?
But I'm still reading. Um, Let me see if I
No,
can.
they're not. I mean, I think one is like a tour book, and one is about the history of Savannah.
Yeah. Well, listen, the history of Savannah is fine. I would love to read that book. I would
Yeah.
love to read that book. But that's what I'm focusing on right now. And I'll be traveling to Sedona, Arizona in October. So I'm excited
That
about that.
that's beautiful too. Have you been
And
there
that,
before?
that no, I've never been there before. It's going to be like a little bit of a pilgrimage. It's going to be very lovely for me. I'm really excited about
Yeah.
it.
It's Arizona's beautiful. You're not going in the summer, are you?
No, I'm going in October.
Well, that's pretty
I'm
much
going
still
in
the summer,
October.
but
I'm going to Mesa, and then I'm traveling, and then by car I'm going from Mesa to Sedona. I'm going to be seeing some friends in Mesa. So
that's good. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. And
yeah,
so, Matt, what are you still working on the same projects, or are you doing something else?
Yeah, so I've been involved with the Kensington Expressway
Yeah.
project. So there's been some lawsuits filed there. And yeah,
Uh-huh.
Richard, your story about opening up the streets just kind of remind me of just how much our society could radically shift if you took cars off of
Yeah.
if you just build a society that wasn't built for cars, right? Because even my street is just it's just a thoroughfare for cars. So I think there are actually some traction on the legal challenges to the Kensington Expressway. So I think the state's kind of in some trouble here because they didn't really follow the prescribed state and federal environmental laws and
Yeah, I hope it
rubber
doesn't.
stamping the project.
I hope it goes well for you, because it sounds like, that it's a bad plan. So
Yeah, your comment before the show, the poison poison plumes. I've been composing hopefully some folk music around the Humboldt Highway project. Been listening to some Pete Seeger songs lately. He's been giving me some inspiration.
sounds good. So James, what are you up to?
he's laughing about.
It's an evil laugh, isn't it? It's a very evil laugh.
Yeah,
Are you up to something
he
nefarious?
giggles. James giggles.
He looks like a gangster.
Just my usual traveling around the country doing work.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Oh, did you get your machine fixed?
that's a funny thing, actually. Your son on the drums figured out that the problem was that my office had a malfunction in the air conditioning system, which caused the humidity in my treatment room to actually cause the machine to malfunction.
Wow.
Oh, he is brilliant. I love that kid.
Bravo, Tom.
Yay!
Now
That's
that's
great.
somebody who went to school and knows what he's doing.
I'm very proud of you, Tom. Okay, and so, Paul, I see you've got a beautiful picture of a flower up there.
Yes.
What kind of flower is that?
That is. There's a couple names to it, but it's called a fox's glove or a lady's glove.
Yeah. I know that name. I
Yeah.
think it's because it's such a close up that I didn't recognize it.
Right.
Isn't that weird how that works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're seeing something different than I'm seeing on the screen, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we're getting close to the end. Is there anything anybody would like to say to end off the show?
I support what Matt said about getting your college online. You know our friend Josh Smith?
Yes.
He's always wanted to go to Harvard. He contacted them and said, I don't know. I mean, it's so expensive. And they said to him, well, do you think you could come here and just take 2 courses in person? And he said, what good would that do me? And they said, because you can take the rest online. So he signed up for it, and he's got a Harvard bachelor's degree now.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's what he's been up to.
Yeah.
Okay, we're out of here. We got 3 seconds left. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and thank you, Tom, for being the guy with the engineering stuff.